All right. We should be live.
Nice.
All right. Let me check the channels and see if everything's working. Looks like it's working.
Nice. That was easier than last time.
Yeah. So how's it going, William?
Yeah, it's going pretty good.
Good.
Busy
Good.
week.
Sure is. Uh, almost like Equalized Digital is cooking something new, right?
Yeah, we may be.
We
Might
might
be.
be. No spoiler alerts here, but we
Yeah,
are.
don't be looking at my sidebar.
That's right. We are cooking something new, and hopefully we'll be launching that before too long. Um, well, give it a few minutes, make sure everything's working. Let me check X, make sure that we're going out live on X. I don't know. I don't know if we're live on X. Did we not have X? No, I've got X set up. Yes, there it is. We are live
Nice.
on X. We could check LinkedIn, but
Can we check LinkedIn?
I don't know. It's LinkedIn.
But no, I can't check LinkedIn. I need to open another tab and build.
Yep, we are live on LinkedIn.
Nice.
Awesome. So we got everybody. Oh, look at that. Looks like we got some confirmation that it's working. Awesome. Well, welcome to the Accessibility Checker changelog live stream. We try to have these every couple weeks where we go through and talk about some of the latest features in the plugin. This episode's a little unique that we are actually going backwards to a feature that we have previously released, but something that we think is good to share and good to walk through and would be good to have a kind of a walkthrough of how to break a website so that you can then fix it. So today we're going to be talking about the fixes inside of the accessibility checker. So not only is the accessibility checker a scanner, it also is a fixer. So if you don't know, the accessibility checker is an automated accessibility scanning tool and fixing tool that can help you make your WordPress website accessible and stay accessible. We have a full-featured free accessibility checker plugin. Our full rule set is available in the free plugin, and you can scan on a per post or per page basis. We do have a premium version of Accessibility Checker Pro, which allows you to have global full site um, auditing tools and some additional fixes are in Pro, some more advanced fixes, which we will go over here shortly. And then we have add-ons at certain price tiers. We have an audit history add-on that lets you track your accessibility compliance over time. We have a multi-site add-on that allows you to manage your accessibility checker plugins at the network level. And we have an exporter add-on that allows you to export your accessibility issues to CSV files. So, like I said, this one is called The Fixes In, How Automatic Fixes Work. You ready, William?
Yep.
All right. So what we're doing is we're trying to run through these one by one, and we're trying to get William to break a website so we could then fix a website or find a theme that is broken. So it's going to be a little bit of an interesting practice here. So in Accessibility Checker Free, the way you get to fixes is you go to the WordPress admin dashboard and you go to accessibility settings, and then there is a tab called fixes, and you'll see what fixes are available for free and which fixes are available for Pro. And as you can see, the free fixes far outweigh the Pro fixes at this point. And so we're trying to give a lot of these fixes away in the free plugin so that there is no cost barrier to being able to make your website more accessible with just a couple clicks. So let's start with the first one. So add language and direction attributes.
Yeah, so all websites should have at least a language attribute. Some of them might want a direction attribute, some of them might not want a direction attribute. I only speak English and I only read websites in English, and it's always the same direction for me. But that isn't the same case for all languages. Some languages are from right to left, and it is good to tell browsers that might assume the default that you can do that. I mean, it's also good to say what your language is as well.
Yeah.
But
So each fix comes with detailed documentation. As you saw, I clicked on the information icon, which pops open the documentation for that specific fix. And the fixes generally show you how to, or sorry, the documentation for the fix shows how to take the steps to apply it. And then it tells you what the fix actually does, and it tells you the impact on accessibility. So we try to provide you with a lot of documentation and a lot of information on why you should do this and how this actually impacts users with certain disabilities, or just how it impacts accessibility as a whole. Do you want to give this one a try, William?
yep. So I
Let
have
me
a
let me pull up your
partially
let me
broken theme.
yeah, I'm gonna switch to William's screen here. There you go.
Yeah, so I have this theme here. This is 2024, I believe. And by default, it outputs a language, but it does not output a direction. Let's see if I can zoom that. So yeah, on this HTML tag here, you see there's a lang tag with the current language of this site and my browser, and there's no direction. So if I were to visit this tab here and enable this fix, save, I can reload this page. And we now see that there's a direction tag of left to right, which matches the content on this website.
Right. And William has the inspector open and he's viewing the elements of the page. So this is on the HTML tag. It now says lang equals en-us and direction equals LTR, right? Left to right.
Yes, and that could be right to left depending on the content itself. The language isn't always a dictator of what the direction is. So these do need to be separate. As I said, this is the 2024 theme, and by default it outputs a language tag, but does not output a direction. And that is pretty normal for the majority of themes that I have tested. They have language, but no direction.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting. I mean, putting left to right, like we just assume, right? We assume that everybody is left to right, and
Yes.
that's not always a fair assumption. Such as like languages like Arabic and Hebrew, right, which are right to left.
Correct.
Yeah, very cool. And the screen readers actually, will read that and respect that and announce that out correctly.
They will. And in addition to this fix being here, we don't have a fix for this, but I do want to call out that you can apply direction and lang tags to any other element. So if you have a part on your page that differs to what the browser default is or what your web page is, you can specify that. That is not part of our fix, but I did want to call out that it doesn't exclusively have to be on the HTML tag.
Right, there can be a switch, and that's typical, right?
Yes.
If sometimes you provide both English and say Spanish or something, and And looking at our documentation, it says that the screen readers, for instance, rely on this information to correctly pronounce words and phrases, thus improving the experience for users with visual impairments. So without the language attribute, assistive tools may misinterpret the text, leading to frustrated user experience.
Yeah, but I would be frustrated if it read the words out backwards.
Yeah, yeah, because that's essentially what it's doing. Yeah, cool. So that one's pretty easy. And do we want to go into how you determine what left to right or right to left to put on there, William? Like from a programmatic standpoint?
Um, I mean, I would need to refresh my memory of how I decided that, so maybe we
But
rely on the documentation that we wrote at the time.
right. Well, I mean, an overarching thing is we're not just defaulting to left to right. We're actually making a decision, a programmatic, well thought out decision.
Yeah, so WordPress does actually include this from get blog info, and they have an is_rtl function which can return data. Which both of these functions are being used to do the initial determination. However, if neither of these provide the direction, then it will use JavaScript on the browser when the page loads to do a final determination based on what language the user wants, which the JavaScript fallback isn't the best. So ideally, the website dictates. So the website should really say what it is.
Right. And then we just
But
try
in
to
cases where they don't, we do at least have that fallback that checks from the browser.
Yep. Very cool. All right. So let's see what's next. Remove tab index.
Yeah. So I can actually showcase that here. I do have a fix for or some content for this. So if you see a start focus indicators up here in the navigation menu, I tap through the navigation items and it starts to reach the content. And as soon as I press tab again, it has bypassed most of the content on the page because the tab indexes are set incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
So I have skipped past probably 6 or 7 whole sections of this website to reach this link down here that says home on it. And if I reverse tab back up, it goes back to the metadata of the page. So a whole bunch of this content is not accessible in the correct tab order. If I continue to press tab, eventually I will reach the content that was skipped. Oh,
Well, you're
a long way to go to get to it.
Yeah.
You see? So this is the problem with changing the tab index on elements, is that people have to pass through a lot of very irrelevant content to get to this. So, in the case of me with the DevTools inspector open, I actually had to go through all of my browser tabs, all of the browser buttons, all of DevTools to reach what was actually page content because the tab index has been modified. And I have a collection of different tab indexes. Like this button has a tab index of 3. This link beside it has a tab index of 5. Some things have duplicate tab indexes of 4. So various things here have tab indexes that break the flow of the page for a keyboard user.
All right, let's fix it. So he's enabling the fix in the settings.
Yep, so that's the second fix on the list. Remove tab index. Once this saves, I will reload the content page. And now if I tab through the page of content, starting all the way from the header to the nav menu, the post metadata that is above the content, and now I have reached the content, and it is tabbing to any of the interactive elements in the order that they would be expected to be reached in.
So. Very cool. So, as a company that does a lot of accessibility remediation, the tab index can actually be a useful tool in some instances. So
Correct. So
what if
actually here I have this button, and this button has a tab index of -1, and this button is removed from the tab order, potentially, you know, in our case on purpose. So if I press tab, it skips it to the input that's beside it. And if I reverse tab, it goes back to the header with a tab index of 1 above it. So it is entirely skipped in the tab order with a tab index of -1. And that is removed from any accessible. It is entirely inaccessible for someone who's using a keyboard only.
right? So we don't. So the accessibility checker will actually only modify tab positive,
Correct.
positive tab indexes in an effort not to break an intentional -1 tab index, because a -1 tab index actually will remove something from the tabbable.
And you do often want that. In the
Yeah,
case of my example content here, where the tab index is a button, you almost never would want a button not to be accessible. However, you might have other types of content that -1 is a legitimate item to be applied, and we need to keep that. So we do only modify positive tab indexes.
right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we actually only apply this to actual tabbable elements as well, right?
Correct. So there is a list of elements that are technically interactive, capable of being tabbed to by default. So, for example, this heading here that I can tab to is not generally an item that should be tabbed to. And I do have this in brackets here, right? Bad. I've made this heading tabbable when it shouldn't be tabbable. This should be read out as part of a different tree that
Mm,
screen readers would have access to, but this should not be accessible. However, in the case of my bad test content, it is. And I've not touched that as part of this fix because it isn't actually a natively interactable element. Buttons, links, various other elements might be interactive, but the heading should not be.
yep. Cool. So the fix is smart. And I don't know if we touched on this yet, but I think this is a good place to kind of uh, talk about this a little bit too. Is like when we don't just wholesale apply fixes to the website and hope for the best, right? So we have an accessibility scanner built into our plugin, and it will scan your page and it'll find issues, and then it'll say, hey, you can actually apply a fix to fix this, or you can apply the fixes, at the global level. And
Correct. So this is the editor I've pulled up for the post that we were just looking at, and we can see there is 7 items flagged in that content for tab order modified. And I do have the fix enabled, but if the fix was not yet enabled, there is actually an action in the right-hand side column for each item that's discovered where you can click the fix button and a modal will appear where the fix, the same content that appears in the settings page would appear here. So you get the information bubble where you can click to open the link to get to the documentation from it, or you can just enable it on the checkbox, click save. And now that has been saved. If I were to reload this tab, the 7 tab order modified items should go down when it rescans.
yeah, so we scan to identify issues, we apply a fix to an issue or a set of issues, and then it rescans again to ensure that the fix that we applied actually worked.
Yeah, so you can see now there is no tab order modified
Yeah,
aims listed here because none of the natively focusable elements have been detected as changed.
right. So it's accessibility checker slash fixer slash checker. so we always want to check that our fix actually worked, because there could be scenarios where, like William said, with language, where we're not getting the language direction from the website and we're falling back to some JavaScript fix that we have for that, and what if that's wrong and it doesn't apply the fix right? The scanner will catch it and still say, hey, even though we applied this fix, it's still not working, and it's something you need to look into.
Correct. So yeah, all of the fixes we have become validated whenever we apply the fix. So, and in fact, you can validate them directly on from the front end by running the rescan. Yep. So that is that fix. Removing
Yep.
tab index, title attributes. So before I save and modify that one, let me just find the element on this page.
So this is removing tab attribute or removing title attributes.
Correct. So I'm inspecting this image. It is a broken image right now. It doesn't exist on this website, but markup still exists and it has a title. So screen readers will read this out. They will read this title.
And in a lot of instances give it preference, right?
Yes, they will prefer the title over the alt tag when in the situation of images. So this is an image that has no alt text and has a title of decorative flourish, which arguably, based on the name of the file, could be an accurate description, but it also might not.
Yeah.
However, as far as accessibility goes, title is a fallback and is never really preferred accessible name to use for elements. So when it comes to an image, the preferred accessible name is alt text. And if I open up accessibility checker issues and tap through them till I find the image that I was just looking at, which is here. So this image is missing alt text. So that's actually what our fix or our checker has detected. This image is missing alt text. However, it does have a title attribute attached to it. So if I revisit the fix page, enable that fix, and save this, and then reload the content of this page, and I will inspect this element again that now no longer has a title of decorative flourish, but has an alt text of decorative flourish. So while the fix says remove title attributes, it actually doesn't always just remove them. If there is no other preferred accessible name, the title will be moved to that preferred accessible place. So in the case of the image, that's always the alt text and never the title tag.
Right. So we could just remove it, but that actually doesn't improve the accessibility, because
Arguably, it makes it worse.
we're taking something away that, like, the title attribute actually does get read out by the screen reader, and the screen reader does kind of give it a little bit of preference. But if we were to just remove it, it now has nothing, right?
Yeah, well, if an image has an alt text and a title tag, the title tag will be read out by most screen readers, which is usually not what you want. You normally want the alternative text to be read out. So if this image did contain alt text by default and the title would just be removed because the alt text would be favored.
Yeah, and this is outlined in our documentation, and I think it's pretty clear in the documentation. For images, if an alt attribute is present, the title attribute is removed. If an alt uh, exists, the content from the title attribute is moved to the alt attribute.
Yes, and in the case of links, I forgot to talk about links, but this link did have a title of home previously, and now the fix is enabled. It actually has been moved to a label, ARIA label, which is the preferred
Right.
accessible name for a link.
Yeah. So for links and buttons, the fix checks for an ARIA label or an ARIA labeled by. If either is present, the title attribute is removed. If neither is found, the title content is transferred to an ARIA label.
Yes, and here while I have this up, actually, I do see that I do have an example. This image here did have an alt text of red ceramic mug by default, and the title has just been removed, and we can tell that because we add some helper classes to various various elements that have changed. So there's EDAC remove title class indicates that this has been operated on by our fix.
Yeah, yeah. And this also supports form elements as well. It will kind of do the same thing
It
as it
does.
does for link buttons, but instead of moving it to an ARIA label, it'll move it to a for, right? A for attribute.
It will. It is not so easy when it comes to input elements because some of those input elements don't necessarily have good data
Mm-hmm.
to take to a for tag. But yes, if there was an input here that was appropriate to have it moved, it would have been moved.
Cool. All right, well, let's move on to the next one, which is force link underline.
Yes. So this actually took me a while to find a theme that I could break this on. So the theme, the older themes that I was looking at, the pre-block themes, make it harder to break this. However, I have this link on my page. This link is just called no underline, and I have used inline styles of text decoration none to remove this underline. And if I were to come to the fixes signs and enable that fix, save the changes, and then revisit the page content, reload the page, this link now has an underline under it. So the link is called no underline. It used to have inline styles that removed the underline. However, now we have inline styles that force an underline on this link. So this only operates on links that are inside the content. If I scroll back up to the top of the page, I also have links inside the navigation, and they have not had underlines applied by default because these are nav items.
Mm-hmm.
We only apply this to non-navigation links.
Right. Yeah. So that would be anything inside of a nav landmark or
Correct.
anything with
Or labeled navigation.
a role equals navigation. Yep. Yep. So this actually, when you apply this fixes the focus state as well, right? It adds an outline.
And no, we have a fix for that. This theme actually has a focus outline, so
So okay. So
it's fine. But we have a separate fix
for that. Okay.
for introduction of.
Right. So this is I mean, and this is probably this is a really simple fix, but in a lot of like accessibility auditing and remediation that we do, this is something that is, a problematic an issue most of the time. So you can get a lot of mileage out of a fix like this, and you can see like on sometimes designers don't want that text decoration underline on their elements to try to make them look a little more fancy, and there's ways to achieve this with to achieve accessible links that differentiate themselves from the rest of the content. But the easiest way to do it is with a text decoration, and that's pretty standard and pretty universal.
It's the default and has always been the default in all browsers, as far as I can remember. And I'm pretty old, so it's been that way for a long time.
Yeah. So
And I do think an unspoken rule in accessibility sometimes is just meet expectations. I
right,
expect links to have underlines in most situations. It's
right.
easiest to just provide that underline.
Yeah, while you may be able to achieve it with like bolded text that is a different color than the body text, and if it still has the correct focus outlines and things like that, you could achieve it, but you really get in the territory of confusing people on whether or not that's a link or not. But uh, and this is not just people with disabilities or people using assistive technologies. This is everybody.
Yeah, this
If
is
you
just me. I
yeah,
expect links to have underlines. That's my expectation. Sometimes they don't, and it sometimes confuses me.
yeah. So if you want clicks on those links, I would suggest having a text
Yeah,
decoration
and
underline.
actually on this website, as someone who, you know, can perceive most colors, I do have some issues with reds. But actually, on this theme, I see that the links are the same color as the body text. So
Yeah,
without the underline, how would you know? So
right,
that's one of the reasons why a visual indicator supersedes a color.
right. Yeah, we could do a whole episode just on that alone. But let's move on because we've got a lot of fixes to get through.
Yes.
So,
Um, but you want to explain what the viewport tag is for? I'm going to need to Google how to break this on this thing.
I mean, we don't have to go through all of them, but we could skip through over some if you think that we need to for time. But the next,
Let's come back to that one then. We can
okay.
just talk through and we can demo it if I can
Well,
figure it out.
yeah, let's talk about it though. The make viewport scalable. So ensure that the viewport tag allows for scaling and enhancing accessibility on mobile devices. So we actually internally through a remediation have gone through a lot of testing of this feature recently, right, William?
Yes, we have. So if so, I in my inspector, I'm expecting what the viewport tag on this particular website is, and it is the initial content. The width is based on the device width, and the initial scale is 1. And there is nothing else in this thing in this the content of this viewport tag. However, there are other options that could appear here. So with it as it is right now, if I come to this tab and I zoom, this page zooms just fine. I can increase the scale, no issue. However, if this meta tag has, I think it's scalable equals no. Well,
On a mobile device.
thankfully the browser is overriding this
Yeah,
negative choice of mine. However, on a mobile device, I probably will not be able to zoom.
right.
Nope. So I'm
It
zoomed in to
actually
500% right now, and it is not changing.
it's user dash scalable equals no, but
Oh,
I think it'll still work on a desktop browser.
yeah, user dash scalable. That is correct. So it's been so long since I've tried to prevent people from scaling websites that I forgot what it was called.
Does it do it on desktop? Oh, you've got your mobile. Yeah, so desktop's not a problem. It's going to be a problem on mobile devices.
Yes, or depending on what browser you're using, if you're using an older browser,
Yeah.
it may not just overwrite this. Because what's happening here is my browser is deciding that's incorrect.
Well, why would a web developer not want the page to be scalable?
In the olden days, maybe that was fine. I can't think of very many legitimate reasons why you would want that right now.
Yeah,
However, the inability to increase the text size is a problem for someone who is hard of seeing,
right. Yeah.
or someone who's had a few too many beers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, or somebody that's just trying to like zoom into a phone number and copy and paste it on a phone,
Yeah,
like things like that. So you don't want to I know back in the like early days of responsive web design and development that it was kind of common like to set that viewport not to scale for your responsive layouts so it was easier to code. But nowadays you want to make sure that you're not making that decision for that user, that website can be zoomed out and zoomed in, and that all the elements on the page naturally scaled to fit their page. I think people would do it too, like if you prevent it from being scalable, then like a sticky nav, right, is not going to be a problem. But if they scale in with like a sticky nav, the navigation can just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it can
yeah,
start overlapping elements and stuff.
yeah. I think that is true. Although the WordPress admin dash like that I have right now, as a zoom in, I guess it does at a certain point decides not to scroll,
Right.
probably for that reason.
Yeah, totally. So cool. I think that covers that one. What do we got next? We got all kinds of good fixes for you guys. Go to equalizedigital.com/accessibility-checker and download our free plugin and start fixing these things today, right away. That's my sales pitch for the day. That was our commercial. Back to the regularly scheduled live stream. So the next one is block links opening new windows. This is a very controversial fix, William.
Yes, sometimes. Not for me. I can, I have no issue with opening new tabs when I choose to.
Right.
But it's nice to know when it is going to happen. For example, if I could not see the list of tabs I have at the top of my browser and I just click on this link right here, I wouldn't know that I've been taken away. I mean, it's not going to work because it's a broken link. But
right.
yeah, so I wouldn't have known I was going somewhere else if I clicked on that link because I might not be able to see the list of tabs.
Right. So let's show them how we can actually inform the user. I mean, this is a visual user and a screen reader user that link opens in a new window.
Yeah, so as a visual user, or in fact, as any user, for me to know this link would open in a new window. Of course, my link text is your window open, but not all of them are. The only way for me to know would be to inspect the code and to see this target equals _blank on the anchor tag. So that is the only way I would know this link is going to open in your window. So if I come back to the fixes and I enable the fix to block links open in new windows, I save that fix, reload this page, and if I scroll back to that new window open link, inspect it, we can see that the target equals _blank is no longer present there. So if I were to click this link, it would open in the current tab, which in most situations is the expected behavior. There is a companion to this new window open fix, which is to add a label to links to open in a new tab. So if I click this and save it, so these links are actually mutually exclusive. You can't really have both of these, and in fact there is a note here. This setting will have no effect if the links open in your window fix is enabled. So I'm going to disable that same fix that I just had on, save, and I will come back to the content and we will look at the new window open link again. And once the page reloads, we can see that there is now an icon beside it. So there is a visual indicator that link will open in a new tab. It also has a tooltip for when it is hovered over but with a mouse that says it opens a new tab. And if I were to inspect it, we can also see that there is a label, an ARIA label that says new window open, which is
the text,
link text, and then opens in a new window. So it wouldn't be redundant if this link was not named something that tells me what it is.
Right. And the tooltip is actually accessible too. So if you hit the escape key, it'll close, right? If you're there you go. You were in the inspector, but yeah. So it's an accessible tooltip that we've added. This fix was actually derived from a plugin that we actually have. So this is the only fix that we have that has its own plugin that you can install this fix just in and of itself. This is the same functionality that you find in Accessibility Checker now, but this plugin is called New Window Warnings. You can find it at wordpress.org/plugins/accessibility-new-window-warnings. So you can install this functionality, this fix just itself. And this one definitely is controversial. I know the documentation for this on our website is a very high trafficked piece of documentation, just because I think a lot of people are seeking whether or not they they should open a link in a new window or not, because it seems like, a lot of people are thinking, if you're on my website, I want the links to open in a new window so that you don't leave my website. But really, it really is a break in context for a user that wasn't expecting that to open, because then they have to, if you're using a screen reader, you got to get back to that tab, you got to get back to the place on the page you were, and it's really time consuming. But if you tell them, hey, this is going to open a new window, are you sure you really want to do it? It's just much more accessible.
Yeah, I mean, most people who are browsing the web now understand how the back button works. It has been a standard feature forever, and in fact, an awful lot of mouses that people use these days include back and forward buttons right on the mouse. It is a very native and well understood feature. There is no real reason
Yeah.
you would want to open all external links by default in new tabs.
Yeah.
There might be some legitimate reasons, but by default, it shouldn't be the case.
Cool. So I want to skip around a little bit. Does that mess you up?
Nope, I've literally just had to skip to because these links aren't the two similar ones are.
Yeah.
They should be side by side.
Right.
I might do that without asking permission.
Yep. So I do. I do want to get to the really good ones that are in the Pro plugin, but I want to look at the focus outline fix first.
Yes. So I'm going to enable this. It might be quite difficult to properly showcase on this website because
it already
this
has them.
Theme already has.
Well, there's the customizer. What if you?
That's what I'm thinking. Can I break it?
Yeah.
I might be able to break it. Yeah, but let me see if I can break it. You can explain why these are useful, and I will break it.
Sure. So, when a keyboard user is tabbing through tabbable elements on the page, we want to provide a visual outline to the element once it's focused. And typically we do this with, a 2-pixel outline that's got a 2-pixel offset that is a good contrasting color. And where that gets really difficult sometimes from a development standpoint, especially if you're using a theme that you downloaded, is if outlines are set in CSS, right? Like if you set the outline color to like blue or green or whatever, or white, you have to define the outline color per the background that it's on. So if the main content area is white, your focus outline probably should be a very contrasty, blue or whatever, very contrasting color. And but and that would be set in the CSS. But if you're on say you get to the footer and it's black, well, if you have that outline set globally, the contrasting blue is not going to look good on a black, and it's not going to meet accessibility color contrast requirements. So you would have to write custom CSS to make it, say, a white outline in the footer area. And what we did with this fix was, well, we decided, hey, the browser actually gets this right out of the box. It's us web developers that kind of mess this up as we create our themes and we create our websites. And sometimes I've seen focus outlines removed just for pure aesthetics, because the developer doesn't like the way it looks when you click on the link and just for a second you see the outline. Now we could get into like focus within and focus visible and things like that. There's ways to get around seeing that outline just on an active state. But what our approach here was to not be opinionated about the outline, but to restore the default browser outline, which comes with the beauty of having that browser blue and white. You have two outlines. So regardless of the background you're on, it's going to meet color contrast. Were you able to break it?
Maybe. So I've literally just added a cell that completely unsets the outline.
Cool.
On
Hopefully.
focus. So yeah, outline unset. and I have disabled our fix, and I will disable the focus that comes from the theme. So now if I'm in a web page of content and I'm pressing tab, my focus is being moved, but I can't see where it is.
Right. So for a visual user using a keyboard, this can be very problematic because William has no idea where he's at.
Nope. So I can see in my inspector at the side, some video styles are being changed, which is giving me an indicator of where I am is the only reason, but I have no visual indicator on the page that is showcasing anything about where I'm at. The only way I will know when I get to a certain point is, so the page is scrolled because I've got more than halfway and I'm scrolling back up or shift tab and the page has moved again. So I know that I'm at least halfway down or up the page, but no idea where. And we did just the browser does this. I've disabled it by explicitly unsetting the focus on every single element on the page. However, we have some styles here that include the important tag that will override this unset. So I've enabled the fix styles. If I come back to the web page and I press tab, now all of the links or all of the focusable elements now have a focus ring. I can see where they are. And Steve did mention that there would be a blue and white outline. For me, on my browser, Chrome on Ubuntu, the outline is black, regardless. But in Safari, Steve will see a blue and white outline.
Yeah, Steve's definitely not using Safari. Hold on.
Well, I think that may be a Mac default.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah. So for me, I always get a black and a white ring or black ring. You can see. Unless I can't see blue anymore, in which case this looks like black to me.
Yeah, let me show what it looks like on a Mac.
Yeah.
So I've pulled up in my screen. I have this website running. What is this? 2020 green. What year is this? 2020 something? When it was?
I think it's 3.
Okay, 2023. So I have the fix enabled in the settings right here. Add focus outline. And if I tab through, you can see that I do have a blue and white outline. Now this theme does, for some reason on focus, add a white
background.
It's a background. Let me switch this.
That is actually quite a good thing to force.
Yeah.
The color, but hopefully it has a filter that makes sure the text inside. If the text was white.
Let me switch to
So that actually is the exact reason why browser defaults have 2 tones. They have a blue and a white. Is because what if you're on a white background, you can see the blue. But if you're on a very dark background, you need the white. You won't see the blue.
Yeah, so you could actually see this better in the other theme. I think I'm on 2020 now, but
2022.
All right.
The pink one.
Yeah, let me jump back to this green one because that actually did show it better. So you can see that I do have a white and a blue outline, this double outline, and actually achieving that with CSS is extremely difficult. You have to do a lot of trickery. So we kind of thought that our fix here was a little elegant, was basically just setting the style sheet back to the browser default.
Yes.
Do I have
almost all browsers handle this way better than we could comfortably handle it in CSS.
Right. So like I'm in the footer now and I've focused on the search button, and you can see I still have good contrast because I have that blue outline and I have a white outline. And so that is the focus outline fix. Cool. So let's jump around a little bit. That's almost all of the free fixes. I think we skipped over skip links. We have a fix that allows you to enable skip links if your theme is missing skip links.
You want to just check that because this is the only fix currently that has a 2-step process. So if you enable that, actually 2 additional fields open up where you can input the IDs that you need the skip links to target.
Right. So this may be, for me, it may be, like
For a lot of people, it's main
content
content.
area or something
Yeah.
like that, or main. Do you have to put the pound
It's
sign?
optional.
Oh,
Um,
it'll actually strip it out or not
it,
strip it out.
yes, I would prefer people put it in because that makes sense to me because it's an ID.
Yeah.
However, if people forget, it's fine. I will also call it this field is a little bit different. It isn't a single input requirement. So you might have different target IDs on different pages across your site. So you actually can input several target IDs and they're just comma separated them.
So like
Yeah, like say most of your blog pages have main content, but you have landing pages that just have content. You could do this, and the fix will cascade through. It'll look for each one until it finds the one that is correct for the page,
okay.
and
So
that
that
will become the target.
so if I just put like pound main dash content comma pound content, it'll
Correct.
actually try the first one. If it doesn't work, it'll check the second one.
Yes, and this was done because Elementor Builder outputs their own set of markup. They have a full page, like takeover. It is not a template that comes from your theme. Thus, the IDs will almost always differ, and without the option to specify multiple there,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
it just isn't going to work. So, yeah,
Yeah, very
it is the only fix that has a two-pronged input requirement.
cool. So that's most of the free fixes, but I want to jump in while we still have time and talk about some of the pro fixes, because these are some of my favorite fixes, and they're some of the more advanced ones. That's why we include those in our premium Accessibility Checker Pro plugin, and these come available with all levels of our premium plugin. So I don't have Pro active right now, but if I go to plugins and I activate the Pro plugin, and then I go to our little toolbar here at the top, and I go to fixes, you can now see that I have the Pro fixes enabled. So which one do you want to go through first, William?
I think the easiest one to showcase is the block PDF uploads, which is absolutely not an accessibility fix in and of itself. However, PDFs are an accessibility nightmare for most people, which is why this was added, and it is also why this is in the Pro plugin and not in the free plugin, because this is not an accessibility enhancement in and of itself. We very much included all of the accessibility enhancement fixes in free.
Right. And this is a control level. So you as a site owner, if you're running a large site that has lots of content creators, this is a control feature where you can control the type of content that gets linked into articles. And like William says, PDFs really can be problematic for accessibility if they're not generated and audited and remediated appropriately with the right accessible PDF tags. So this is a good way to control content that your content creators are adding to the website. So do you want to, demo that? So you have it enabled?
I do not, and I actually, do you have a user that is not an admin user on that test site of yours? Because I realize I do not.
I think so. Let me
Because by admins by default will always be able to upload PDFs, and I only have an admin user on this test site.
I have an editor. Would that work?
That work fine. Yeah. So
All
if
right.
you enable that fix and
Let
just
me.
have a PDF to test.
All right. So let me show my screen here. Let me go to fixes, accessibility checker fixes, and I want to enable block PDF
Yep.
uploads, hit save changes, and then we want to switch to this editor user. Let's see if I can remember the password for that, which is probably 12345
That's the least secure password, but if you put it backwards, it might be the most.
Yeah. Well, this is a local site, and it can be deleted and destroyed and rebuilt. So if I go to media,
If you go to the library and test upload some random.
Let me hold on. Let me find a PDF real quick without showing the whole world my file system here. Okay, so I'm gonna bring my screen back up so you can see all my weird GIFs that I use to test
It's almost Thanksgiving.
It's almost Thanksgiving.
That GIF that I absolutely hate is going to come out again.
So I'm going to drag over a PDF and it uploaded. Is it supposed to do that?
You may have the permission. Maybe we didn't set up for them on this. It should not have uploaded if the fix is properly enabled. Can you try again here one time? Maybe you've just found a bug.
Let me.
Can you click the select file? Maybe.
Hold on, I'm gonna try this.
Right here. Drag and drop.
Maybe editors still have the add media. So you're saying try to select it?
Yeah, like if you click the select files button.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing that, but I'm doing it off screen.
I can't see it. Yeah.
No, it's still uploaded. What are we doing wrong, William?
That may be broken. That may be a broken fix. I will take a note of that right now.
Are we sure it's broken? Or are we sure we're not doing this?
I am not sure it's broken, so I am going to take a note and.
Now, it's very possible that this editor I have has modified permissions because
yes, that's what I hope is the case.
We do a lot of plugin dev here, and we modify stuff. Let me ensure that. Let me log out here. I'm going to log in as. I'm going to go back to fixes. Block PDF uploads. Restrict PDF uploads for users without the EDAC upload PDF capability. So we have a custom capability. Allowed
if
for
your
admins.
Editor has manage options as well, it could also bypass by considering them as an admin.
I bet you I have given this user that capability.
Probably.
In my testing.
We can cycle back to that, but I will check this after this call. Maybe we could show off my least favorite to build, but most favorite now that it exists fix, which is the add file size. The links.
Yeah, let's do that. And let me just test another user before we do this. And then if not, William will be releasing a hotfix real quick.
But Pro needs to get a release out this week, so that's a good one to do.
This okay, so something's up here. This is a subscriber, but they have admin user roles.
The editor does not know, so
yeah. But I've been
you've been messing around with this. Do you not have a plugin that handles? Yeah, you've got user role editor.
Oh, I do. I've been messing with these.
Since this subscriber is an administrator, let's check what the editor can do with the user role editor.
Right there. That's exactly it. All right, let me log out of this user. I'm going to go back to our editor user. So here you are.
You need to change that before you sign out.
Wait, I want to jump back a little bit before I show this. I want to show this chat message from Amber Hines, our fearless CEO. This must have been when we were talking about the highlight.
Yes, it probably is.
She
And
says
actually, maybe it's an option, and that's why mine is black.
maybe Amber said I always get pink because I set that as my preferred color. So in your browser settings for your outline, for your focus outline, I guess you could set it. I've never modified this. So
Mm.
Amber
I might have now that she said you can do that.
Amber prefers pink, uh, which is very girly, and William prefers black, which is very
I
black.
mean, I'm going to change mine to pink right now if I can.
Yeah, that's funny. So jumping back to this, so what we've done is uh,
Oh, it's a Mac saying
oh, it's a Mac setting.
you're going
Okay.
to need to send me that Mac just so I can get a pink outline.
Yeah. Yeah, Amber says in your Mac you can set the focus outline color. So that's a nice little perk of Mac users. It's pretty cool. I didn't know that. I'm going to set mine to pink too. So the next time I do this, I get a little laugh. Cool. So let's recap what happened here, William. We're trying to block PDFs from uploading, and
Yes, and we have provided the option for a custom capability so that a site manager can pick and choose individual users that can upload the PDFs. Steve has decided to give his editor role, which wouldn't by default have this permission, the permission, and as such did not get blocked when he tried to test.
Right. So you will see on my screen that I have two options here: one edact underscore upload underscore PDF and edact p underscore upload underscore PDF. This is likely only a me thing because
Yes, you've had this test site since we first started working
yeah,
on this fix.
yeah. So we've gone through some normalization of our prefixes. So this is probably just a me thing. If you're using the plugin and you're using the user role editor, you're only going to see one of these user capabilities. So I switched to the editor user. I tried to upload a PDF, and to William and my surprise, it uploaded when it shouldn't because we had the fix set to block it. And so we circle back and we have a capability. I've applied the custom capability to the editor user role. So I'm going to remove that now. Let me resume out.
Do you have to zoom out to save this? That's annoying.
Probably
Maybe
not.
no. Yeah.
So
you may also want to check the actual user as well, not just the role.
oh, to see what they're
just to make sure that it hasn't been applied in two places.
At the user level?
Yeah.
I don't think you can modify capabilities at the user level. Not with this. Well, not
Yeah,
with.
you can. It's at the end.
Oh, you can add additional ones. So,
and you can edit the capabilities.
And we want to look for edact. And it's deselected. Okay, cool. So now if I go back to that user and I log in, I'm in an incognito window. Okay, so now I'm logged in. And now it's time for the moment of truth. So if I go to media and I go to drag and drop in a PDF, oh, look at that.
You have not got your...
Oh, I'm in a different window.
Okay, you got a different window that didn't show.
Have I not been showing this the whole time?
You showed all the changes. You did not show the upload or the incognito window.
Oh, okay. So let's go back. I was just enjoying that myself, all by myself. You know, help a brother out, William.
You described it well enough I didn't notice. I also can't see the screen.
He's just leaving me out to dry here. So, or hanging me out to dry. Editor. So now let's log in with the editor so that everybody in the world can see. And my super secret password. So now let's go to media and the big dramatic build. Drum roll. There you, there you go. And we drag and drop that in. And now look, I've been blocked. I can't upload PDFs. So I'm presented with a admin error that says gives the name of the file I tried to upload, and it says, sorry, the website administrator has blocked PDF uploads from your user role. Please contact an administrator for support to have them upload the file. And then there's a button there, you can dismiss the error. So now the fix is working. So it works as intended. William doesn't have to bat out a hot fix, but this did allow us to explain how our custom capability works.
Yeah.
Cool. Next premium fixed, William.
Yeah, so this one was my least favorite to build, but is my most favorite to use now that it works. So this is the add file size and type to links. So I have this enabled on this on my test site. I'm enabling it right now. I'm going to click save changes, and then I'm going to visit this content, which you can now see this PDF link, which is accessibility checker hotfix general steps outline. I can't remember uploading that, but I did. And it is a PDF of 34.35 kilobytes. So it is now appended that to the link. You can also see there is a button beside this link, which is very generically labeled download, but it is also a link to a file, a PDF file that is 34.35 kilobytes in size. So it's this two links to the same file, and they are both added. So if I come back to the fixes page and I uncheck and save that fix, reload the page, we will see that those items that were appended to the end of the links will no longer be present. So this link just says accessibility checker hotfix general steps outline. There is no indicator of the file type or the size of the file. And yeah, that is the fix. But to make that work was a lot more effort than it seems like it should be.
Yeah. So
what is this? This is a
USDS or USWDS guideline. Is that correct?
I think so. I couldn't remember who it was from, but that sounds correct.
Yeah. So this is part of the USWDS design system guidelines to add this context to download links, and this just helps the user have more context because of what they're downloading and how much bandwidth it's actually going to take to download it. And
yes, and this is a perfect case in point. So this button here just says download, but it really doesn't give context about what you will download.
Right.
But now you don't know what you're getting, but you do know that it is a PDF and you know its size. And 34.35 kilobytes is probably fine to download on most mobile browsers, but we have all came across those PDF files that might be 50 or 60 megabytes, and you do not want to be trying to open them on a train with with a 4G connection going through tunnels. That isn't going to work.
Right. I mean, it's kind of parallel to the open in a new window warning, right? Like when a link opens in a new window, a lot of times screen reader users don't know that it's going to do that, and I think a lot of times with accessibility, and we talk about compliance, right? But we're kind of taking a step further, from compliance. The compliance line is not always where we're trying to get to. We're actually trying to get to full accessibility, which is well beyond the legal compliance line. And in a lot of these scenarios like this, just with like the link open in a new window, you really want to just set clear expectations about what's going to happen when you click this link, because it could be like a .exe file, right? Like, and I can't even run that. I'm on a Mac. I've accidentally clicked on some link to download, and it downloads an executable file for a Windows machine, and I'm on a Mac, so I just wasted my time clicking on that. And
Yeah, sometimes this can also be, so when I click this button, a PDF in my browser, this PDF will open directly in this browser. And that's true of other file types as well. So this could be a MP4 file. This could be a video.
Right.
And when I click on this, it could open another tab. So it says download. But what would actually happen is another tab would open and that video might start playing. And you might be in a library where it would be inappropriate to have your speakers at full volume playing a random video, which in my case is probably going to be a heavy metal music video, which not many people want to hear.
Yeah. And something I don't think we really talk a whole lot about when it comes to accessibility is bandwidth. And like not everybody has the same resources to be able to buy the fiber optic 2 gigabit up, 2 gigabit down, right? There are people that live in rural areas, and there are people
Yeah. Not,
unlimited
not
limit.
everyone is lucky as Steve to get that gigabit connection. I actually am very lucky that I have a 100 megabit connection.
Yeah,
Prior to that, I had 20. And just 6 years ago, I had a 2 megabit connection.
right.
And I do live in rural Scotland. So,
Yeah,
there is the case in point. But I got upgrades. Not everyone has received those upgrades yet. And I still can't get full fiber.
right. So it would, in William's case, it's a regional restriction. So 100 megabits is doable, right? Like
It's fine.
it's
It's not
fine.
fine when my wife is watching 4K videos and my kids are wanting to play their shoot 'em up games.
Yeah,
It isn't quite enough.
right. And here in the States, I've got access to gigabit, but actually they have 2 gigabit up and down now that I could get if I wanted to. But there are people that live in rural areas that may be using, a Starlink that doesn't have great reception, or they may still be using a dial-up connection, or they're using a library computer that just has a slow connection, and they don't want to be downloading executable files at the library, right? And so you want to try to be accessible not just to people of differing abilities. You want to be accessible to people of different income levels and different regional restrictions on their internet bandwidth. So them, and some people like actually will use we have like T-Mobile 5G. It's 5G now, right? I'm old, I'm dating myself. 5G modems, or even a 4G modem in their house that they run their whole house off of. And yeah. And so,
No comment.
or you could be in Texas, like Amber, and be struggling with internet speed. Amber wrote, "Are you talking about my crappy internet now?" With the
As someone who does have Starlink and a 4G dongle.
right, yeah. So being mindful about access to internet bandwidth is a good addition to do this, and it just makes your website, I think, adding this to, like, especially pages that we remediated a website that had just a ton of downloads, like meeting minutes and things like that. And adding that just gives it a little bit more of a professional touch, in my opinion. And it just seems like the website's a little more intelligent. Anything else to add to that?
No, I mean, I do have one thing to add to that. Let me see if I can find the code. I do want to highlight. So this came up in a support ticket recently, and I would like to highlight some of the code if I can find it real quick. No, that's the wrong plugin. Yeah, so while this fix actually just looks at the content, it does also target ACF fields. However, you might have other fields on your site that this does not apply to that you want it to. There is actually this EDEC underscore fix underscore fail underscore size underscore underscore type underscore additional underscore filters. So that filter, you can add other fields that might exist on your website or other content areas to make sure that the fix is applied that shows the file size and file types to that content,
Right.
even
So
if it isn't inside the content of the page.
right. So we've gone ahead and filtered in all ACF fields, correct?
Yes.
And we've provided a filter where if you have some custom meta that you've created, either it comes from a plugin or something, you can uh, grab that filter and hook your stuff into that so that it'll work as well. Yep.
Oh, no, never mind. The AI did not get it right to showcase it. Pretend I didn't write that code.
Well, you didn't. The AI did.
But the filter is relatively easy to use. It is outlined in the fix how
Right.
you can apply that in the fix documentation.
Well, and I think before we move on to the next one here, I think the last thing to kind of mention too is this works for files hosted on your server. What if a file is hosted somewhere else? Are you still able to pull all this information?
So unfortunately, it proved problematic to determine the size of the file type. Without making a request for the file, you can't know that in advance. However, we can determine what the type is from the extension in a lot of cases. So if this was an external file, it would just say PDF. It wouldn't be able to tell you the exact size, unfortunately. However, that is a possible enhancement in the future if it proves to be a valuable add, but it is complicated to
Right.
say what the size of a file is before you request it. So this file is locally hosted. We can read it and we know its size. But for other, and this is the same with like visiting any random URL on the website. Until you visit it, you don't know what is on that URL.
Right. Yeah.
But if it contains like .pdf at the end, .mp4, .png, like you can infer what the type is. It isn't a guarantee, but it's better than not knowing. So
That's
we
right.
can for offsite files, we will say the type. For on-site files, we will say both the type and the size. And the size is it's not always going to be dictated in kilobytes. If this was a very large thing, it would say megabytes. If it was small, it would say bytes. It it varies depending on the context of the size of the file.
Cool. So let's move on to add missing page title. So this is another premium fix.
It is, again, unfortunately, I couldn't easily break this theme. Block themes output a title quite readily. There is, or just actually most modern themes now, always output a title. But you might have a broken theme, or there might be something on your website that breaks this title. So we do have a fix that will attempt to generate the title. I will need to pull up the documentation so that I'm totally certain about the process that it uses. So yeah, so for the homepage, it will be your website's name. But for other pages, it will be the post or page title. If that cannot be found on the page, the first heading, an H1 or an H2. And if no headings are found, it will fall back to the site title again. So yeah, this is a hierarchy of how it decides what the appropriate page title might be. This one here will always be the most preferable, followed by this, and ideally we never fall back to this one. It depends on how broken the website is or how broken the page is, but in general, there is usually going to be at least a title, or ideally WordPress will have a post or page title to give us.
Right.
But
And the
most
reason
themes have
and the
one.
and the reason why you want a page title is because it literally sets the whole tone for the page and tells the screener like where they are. If there's no page title, it's just confusion, right?
Yes, and as we can see the title on this page here, the page is called Fix Content. The title of this page is Fix Content dash Accessibility Checker Rule Validation, and that is the name of this website. And if we look back at the documentation, the site title and the separator will be appended if available. So whenever we generate a title from one of these three options, or I guess not the third one, the third option is literally the addition of the site title and separator. So that actually is the pattern that this page has when the title works correctly. So if this title were to be broken by other code on this website, this same title would be output when our add missing page title fix is enabled.
So this is not just an accessibility feature. This is also an SEO feature.
Correct. And again, the fact that this is not purely an accessibility fix is the reason why this lives in Pro and does not live in free. The value of this, given how frequently I see broken titles these days, is quite low. Most titles work fine because most people have themes that have been tested. That wasn't always the case. Quite a lot of themes had broken title tags because they didn't include it in their header. Many years ago, WordPress swapped to the ability to automatically generate it with a function call. Very old themes might still not have implemented that.
Yeah.
It is those themes that I most often see a broken title tag on. And while I'm saying they're very old, there is a lot of very old websites.
Right. Yeah, I remember building that title back in the day before. Oh man, before Yoast SEO and before all-in-one SEO, like actually just doing it yourself. So, but yeah, so that's that fix. What we got one more premium one, right?
Is that the labeling of form fields?
Yep, labeling of form fields.
Yes, so this one I may have some content here that I can showcase it with. Let me just reload this page. So I do have this input here. It's input with a broken tab index. However, I can probably enable the label form fields fix. Save that, reload this content, and we might be able to get a label for this. Let's see. Oh, yep. So visually, we have a label now. Above the form input, there is a label, an actual label tag when inspected, and it wraps the input. And the generated label has came from the placeholder text.
Mm-hmm. So a placeholder alone is not enough. Like, why isn't a placeholder enough?
Well, a placeholder is not enough for a few reasons, but first off, I can show we can see the placeholder now that my focus is in that field, but as soon as I start to type, the placeholder goes away. And a lot of people might have memory issues. I know that when I'm filling out forms, so in the case of a single form or a single field, that's not such an issue, but for a set of very long form fields, you might not know. This also could be a phone number field, and it might want a very specific format. So random numbers and letters might not be fine, or just random numbers. It might literally want a format that has dashes in it.
Yeah.
It looks like that. And if you don't see the placeholder, you have no idea.
Right. For me, where I've been really annoyed where these websites that only have placeholders, and this kind of came about of it was a design thing, right? Like you can make this slick form. It doesn't take up a lot of room.
Yeah, well, we can see why the designer might choose that based on what has changed in this form. We can see that now the vertical space differs because this has a label above it, and the button beside it doesn't. So maybe you might not visually want that. However, someone filling in that field almost always will want a label to be visible.
Right. And me, as somebody that's probably just considered typical, would when I feel like, especially an important like government form, right? Like, um, you fill it out, and then like my OCD makes me go back through and check it like 10 times before I hit submit. And like, I can have something typed in that field, like even if it's a phone number in my head, I'm like, okay, it's a phone. That's the phone number field, but really, I don't even know, like, if there's no label there.
Sometimes you might accidentally do that as well. You might like type a strong password. You might
Yeah,
type your password into the wrong place,
yeah,
and you don't know, because if the only place that says it's the password field is the placeholder, it relies on you paying attention. And I will be honest, when I'm filling out very, very long forms, by the time I get to the end where it asks for my password or my other details, I'm checked out.
yeah.
I'm not really paying attention. I could quite readily type my password into a field that,
Well, and sometimes the autofill actually doesn't fill in the right field,
yeah. So
and
this could be a name, this could be a phone number. Once you have started inputting into it,
yeah,
you don't know unless there is a visible label. If this label was gone, I wouldn't have
right.
any idea.
So we say all that to say that a visible label is absolutely necessary. Stop removing them. Let, learn
Yes,
learn
I
to
will
design
also
around
call
them.
out that while a visual label or a wrapped label is preferable that is visual, if someone as a designer so chooses to change how that styles, we do output a class on here, which someone could target and restyle this so that it was maybe left aligned, left label, right form field. Like it doesn't have to be top down.
Right.
It can be restyled however you want, and we do provide that class name that would let that happen.
Cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about how it decides what that label should be called. So I have the documentation of it, and
You will
I'm,
need to read the
I'm not quizzing you.
order of preference, but placeholder will be first, or label
Nope,
will be
nope,
first.
nope. Wrong.
Oh,
Incorrect. You failed.
as an input labeled by.
Nope. Hold on.
I
so
have no idea what order it's supposed to be in. Then all I know is the things that I made it look at.
so these features we did create a year ago, over a year ago. So we are kind of testing ourselves here a little bit, but it's going to start with the ARIA label, and
That makes sense.
that makes
That's always first. I should have
William,
said that.
William's like that. Yep, that's how I coded it. Like that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So first, it's going to check for an ARIA label. If there is no ARIA label, it will check for placeholder text, which I think in this case it's pulling the placeholder text.
Correct. And it does say where it has been generated from in
Oh,
the
very
markup
very
that
cool.
we say.
I didn't know it did that.
Well, I mean, I can't remember what order things ago. That's added for me. I
I
mean,
mean,
it's not. It is for anyone who needs it.
yeah, that's pretty cool. And what William's talking about is he's looking in the inspector, and
Yeah, so I'll explain it. In my inspector, I have a data attribute on the label that has been generated, and its value states where it has been produced from. So if this was from a label, it would say label, but currently this is from the placeholder and it says placeholder. And that data attribute is data edac generated label from.
and it's equal to placeholder in this case. Yep. And then if there is no placeholder, it goes on to the title attribute. And if there is no title attribute, it goes on to the name attribute. Which, the in that order, ARIA label, placeholder text, title attribute, name attribute, the most preferable is definitely at the top, and it gets least preferable as you go down the list. But what we're doing is we're doing everything we can to interpret what that label should be because it's so important to have it there. So it doesn't just pull over those labels and just stick them in there as they are. It will do some string replacement to replace underscores with spaces, to split camel case words with spaces, and capitalize the first letter of words.
Yes, and that is only in an effort to make sure that it is going to be readable. Um, yeah, quite often if you have a placeholder or a name field is the one actually that almost always, like a name can't have spaces in it. A name has to be one contiguous string. So it would either have underscores or dashes if it had separations, or it would be camel case. So that's just some basic text processing or parsing to make sure that this comes out as a readable string. There's no guarantee that formula will, but we're trying to make it readable, human readable.
Right. So if you have a form on your website that doesn't have labels and you're not a developer and you have the Accessibility Checker Pro, you can enable this and all your form fields will have labels, and the plugin will actually, like I said before, will scan the page again to ensure that those labels were applied correctly. Cool. So I think that brings us to the end. What we kind of can do is we normally at this part we tease. We're kind of running well over time here, but we do tease like upcoming features, and I think we can tease a little bit of a feature that is in line with our fixes, and a fix that we talked about implementing in the Pro plugin. This would be a premium fix. Is our pause animated GIFs feature. Do you have that ready to demo, or I can demo it? Let me
Yeah,
see.
I think you have to demo that. I built that and then I threw it away. And I never want to look at animated GIFs ever again.
Yeah, let me
Please, just for anyone listening, please don't use animated GIFs. They are painful.
it's so while I'm pulling this up, can you explain what this fix does?
Yeah, so whenever you have a GIF on a web page, almost all animated GIFs will just autoplay on a loop forever. Um, they're sometimes quite flashy in terms of how they look and their colors. They might be distracting for a lot of users. I mean, case in point, these are quite flashy GIFs that Steve has pulled up on the page. And the fact that they're moving and they can't be stopped is a distraction. And it also might be, someone who has some cognitive issue, concentration issues, like me. I'm distractible. I get distracted by flashy colors.
Right.
Um, we might just want to turn these off, and natively GIFs cannot do that. Or not
Right.
just GIFs. There are other web formats that support animation as well. WebP, for
WebP.
example.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, we built this thing, this system.
So this is, like I said, we're teasing a upcoming fix that we plan to implement in the future. So this is all up for changing and being modified. So what I'm looking at is I'm looking at this. So we actually have a plugin for this, and you can. Did you pull that up in?
I can find it and pull it
There's a
up.
so what we're doing the show notes on this too is we're provide a link to the GitHub repository for this where you can download this plugin and install it on your website. Um, so we have a lot of settings for this, which likely will be pared down a little bit if this gets moved into the Accessibility Checker Pro plugin, where you can choose a whole set of settings, such as the container that it targets and the classes that it inherits. Um, Whether there's a shared pause button, so you can create a pause button and you can actually give it a target, like an ID, and that one button can pause all the GIFs on the page. You can, like here, you can show or hide the pause button, because say you just want them all paused by default. And then we have some button styles here. Didn't we have initial paused? So like if I click on initially paused, right? And I refresh the page, so you'll see that the GIFs all start paused. So this is
Well,
probably
actually, just to call out, so they actually all start with the default of whatever they're going to do, which is animated. And as soon as possible, as soon as it's feasible, we run the pause on it. So it actually isn't instant because there's a limitation there of how quick we can do this, but we do it as soon as is possible. And yeah, if Steve reloads his page again, you might see a slight flicker at the beginning, but that, 300 milliseconds into the page load is as soon as we can pause.
Well, let me
GIFs.
let me do it from a non-page or not open page. Yeah, so there's, and like I said, this is not a production ready feature right now, and there could be more done, but that may require us to do some preloading on our end.
Yes. It is a solvable problem. We did not solve it at the time, but I did want to call that out, is that it isn't actually instant because of the limitation of how quick we can do our operations.
Yeah, this was during the Global Accessibility Day this year. This was a project that William and I took on and tried to create this plugin all in one day. So these are paused, and then I can hit the play button to play them, or hit it again to pause them again. And this helps meet accessibility compliance for GIFs, because any type of animation on the page should provide a feature, a pause feature, and this goes a long way to help with that compliance. Is there anything else worth showing on here? That
I don't really think so. I think a lot of these are developer-esque type features. They might not be directly exposed when this is converted to effects. Yeah.
Yep.
So for a lot of these,
so you can have them playing by default, and then of course the user can pause it. And these are keyboard accessible pause buttons. See this beautiful animated outline I have that's a little over the top, but and the buttons, the outline of the button and the focus area kind of help give context, because it creates that double contrast.
Yeah, because actually in the case of this specific GIF, the button is blue by default and the background in the GIF is blue.
Right. So
they could get lost feasibly.
Right. So having the white and the black is very helpful. And we've done a lot to make sure that these buttons are accessible. You can see that the correct attributes are being toggled back and forth, and that it reads out the correct text, even though we're not showing visible text for visual users. So this is an upcoming fix that we're hoping to roll in at some point, and that is our tease of an upcoming feature. So I think with that, this has been a very long episode. We've gone through most of our fixes. I would implore you to visit our website or visit WordPress.org and download the free plugin, or upgrade to the premium plugin to give it a try. If you're a current user of Accessibility Checker, please give us a glowing 5-star review on WordPress.com. And until the next live stream, we will be working on new features and possibly some secret new products that we won't talk about here. And do you have any closing statements, William?
No, but if you want to pull up my browser, they might see in the sidebar where that secret feature we won't talk about might.
No, don't look at that. I'm not going to pull it up. Oh, I pulled it up. Don't click on it. Yeah, don't click on it. Yeah, don't even circle it with your cursor. It's a secret.
No.
Those that watch may.
I can't keep them.
Yeah, they may catch on, but we are going to get back to work on features for you guys, and we will see you in a couple weeks on the next Accessibility Checker changelog. Take care.
Thanks. See y'all there.